Hello.
Kia ora.
G'day, Kimmy's dad.
Welcome.
G'day.
This is Ads. I'm Sean with an H.
Ads is brought to you by besidetheseaside.co.nz.
This podcast series is about ads and how they happened. My friends will give me some ideas and I'll grab some of them, and I've got a few stories of my own, and we'll have a few interviews, we'll chat a bit. But it's mainly about, some of the thinking, some of the funny stories that happen with ads, and just stuff that sort of you may not have thought about, or it's just a good yarn. So that's what this is about. It's called Ads. So this is podcast number 2, and as I said last week, we're going to get Jeff, good mate of mine from South Australia, Adelaide, very good writer, I might add, taught him everything he knew. Anyway, Jeff is going to have a chat to us today about an idea, about how you need to listen, really, just how you need to be listening every time you go to a meeting. Go, Jeff. Nice to see you, Cobber. How are you?
How you doing, Sean? Thanks for having us. I actually listened to one of your podcasts. I think it was your first one, when you said that when you sit in front of clients and you listen to them and you get things right, and sometimes you get things really right, and quite often it's by accident. Guess I've lost count of the times that's happened, but perhaps more often than not, I found it less accidental and, dare I say, more providential, in that the client themselves will quite often release a pearler just in the middle of normal conversation and not even realise it.
Jeff, you've been doing this almost as long as I have, nearly. It's close. What's the biggest thing you've ever learned?
I've learnt the art of listening. For sure, in as much as we are, I guess, seen as gurus, as you politely put it, and while most of that can be justified by the work that we've done, I suppose you could call it our long-term audio resume, a great part of it is what we aren't so much creating. I figure it's more about what we're listening and searching and ultimately channeling, that usually comes from someone else. The whole idea behind this particular ad series started, like so many, with a client meeting, and I think it was about November 2004. The guy was the owner of Seven Seas Seafood. It was a local Adelaide based fresh fishmonger. I remember him as being a really, really lovely guy. I can't remember his name, but for the sake of this particular exercise, I'll call him Mario.
Mario Seafood. Mario Seafood. Yeah, it's a bit Italian, mate, isn't it? If it helps the story, let's invent his name. He'll let us know if it's wrong, I guess. Carry on.
So he'd been invited in anyway to discuss his campaign leading up to Christmas and the increased demand, as you would expect, placed on the business as the as Christmas accelerates. Of course, Mario's business wasn't soulless. He wasn't operating in a vacuum. He had 3 or 4 other competitors, and they were pretty much competing for the same market and pretty much promoting, as you would expect, all the same stuff. So how to make him different? How to make him stand out? That was the question. In the course of the early conversation, nothing much was happening. I wasn't picking up much apart from the predictable stuff, but it was interesting. The most important thing that I learnt from the marvellous late Len Potts, sadly, and something that's become part of my personal mantra, is to find out exactly who the target market is. Exactly. Defined perfectly by Len's really, really important question: who are you talking to and what's their problem?
Len's 5 questions. 15 years ago in a conference, learned about those in Saratoga, Fiji. He brought them with him. He was a guest speaker. He brought these 5 questions over that he'd been working on for donkey's years, decades. And ever since.
It's so much easier and much more effective when you write or you talk to a group of people who have a common problem rather than trying to talk to everyone. And I honestly believe it's actually got nothing to do with demographics. Further, it actually amazes me still to this day that most advertisers and most marketing people still don't get it. They're still trying to talk to everybody.
Yeah, when you talk about who you're talking to, I'll just throw in a little story here if I may. I was at a Honda dealership in Sydney one day, and I said, same questions, Jeff. Who are you talking to? What's their problem? And And normally you get really vague answers. Oh, people 18 to 54, that they own a car. Usually you get really vague answers. This particular client, Honda dealer, he says, it's a 42-year-old female with 2 kids, one aged 8 and the other aged 11. And she lives within 10 Ks of our dealership here and has a combined household income of $123,000. You can imagine now when you're writing, you're talking to her. Yeah, other people are listening. But if that's your market, you've got a pretty clear picture of who you're talking to.
So when I explained to Mario the importance of honing into a specific market based on this question, he immediately understood. Then he chuckled and he said, history would say my market is largely guys, married blokes, who in the lead up to Christmas forget to order or buy seafood and end up getting a kick in the nuts from the missus. And that's when my light popped on. I didn't really need anything else. So I went away and I wrote the ads, 3 of them, for the 3 weeks leading up to Christmas. The message was pretty much the same, but the intensity or the storytelling kind of went up a notch each week as Christmas got closer.
G'day, I'm Barry. Sorry about the voice. You see, this time of year my missus always reminds me to order Christmas seafood from 7 Seas, but I forget and she gets real angry with me. So here's the tip, guys. Order your Christmas seafood now from 7 Seas, because in a few weeks they get busy. You may not get what you want and your missus will break your ball.
Order your Christmas seafood now from 7 Seas.
Or suffer the consequences.
7 Seas, passionately selling perfectly fresh seafood. 165 Francis Road, Wingfield, just off South Road.
G'day, it's Barry again. I'm still talking like this. And she hasn't forgiven me because I forgot to order our Christmas seafood from 7 Seas early. She said we'll miss out on nice South Australian king prawns and crayfish. And she gave me another smack in the oysters. So, fellas, if you forgot to order from 7 Seas, get in and buy now because you wouldn't want to end up talking like this.
Hurry, get into 7 Seas Seafood now.
And keep your oysters fresh.
7 Seas, passionately selling perfectly fresh seafood. 165 Francis Road, Wingfield, just off South Road.
So that's it. They're very much of their time. Do they stand up now? I don't know. For their time, they were great. The thing is we were having fun with a product category that you can actually have fun with. We weren't having to explain to people over and over again what they do and why, and we were using the creative execution as the point of difference when the business kind of really didn't have one in what was ultimately a fairly cluttered market at a very, very cluttered time of the year. A final footnote, the campaign was very, very successful. It won an Australian Commercial Radio Award in the Best Station Produced Commercial category for the following year. And I actually did get a phone call during the course of the campaign from I must say, a very polite representative from a domestic violence group. They weren't officially complaining about the commercial. They wanted to point out that there is an alarming percentage of domestic violence cases that are committed against men by their partners. I, of course, found this interesting and a little bit sad, to be perfectly honest, but I also worry that as we move into a world of increased political correctness, we can't just occasionally laugh at ourselves, and then we also can't respect the public enough to realise the difference, that everything has to be sanitised. So there's my ads for 7 Seas Seafood.
Stories. We're going to put some more of those together, and if you'd like to hear them, just go to my website, besidetheseaside.co.nz, click on ads, and you're in. And if you have any good stories, drop me a note while you're there. And next time, Jeff's back, and we talk about one of Australia's longest running radio campaigns that stars one of Australasia's best known actors, a bloke called Roy Billen. It's been going for over 18 years, and between Jeff and I, we've probably written over 100 ads for it. It's for Safe security doors. It's a really good story about how a client just hung in there. Even though he was under all sorts of pressure, he realised that this radio campaign was working for him. By the way, Josh from voicemedia.com.au puts all these together for me, and he does a great job. If you're looking for a sound engineer and want to work with a top bloke, get in touch with Josh. He's at voicemedia.com.au.
Ads is brought to you by besidetheseaside.co.nz.